Well, hello and welcome back to Euroformula here in Spa. We're at the circuit Spa-Francorchamps for round 3, race 3 here in Belgium. 7 kilometers await us, 3.3 miles, 19 turns, 10 right, 9 left. And we're not even in Spa. I know. I was as shocked as you were when I found out the news. We're actually nearer the town and in the town of Francorchamps, but we are in the Belgian Ardennes countryside where it has been a lovely day today so far. Air temperature around 23 degrees centigrade. We had an absolute deluge of rain and storms last night, but that has cleared today, but left us with quite a green track. But it's reaching the end of towards the end of racing action here, and we had just had International GT Open cars going out for their second race, so the track should be nice and rubbered in for the final race here this weekend for the Euroformula Open. 12 drivers on the grid, and if this afternoon's second race is anything like this morning's race, we are going to be in for an absolutely epic battle. There was battles all throughout the field, but none mainly for our race winner, which was Louis Foster, who has won both the races so far this year. He wants to be able to do the triple come the end of this race. 35 minutes and 14 laps of racing await us, and if Louis Foster can start from second and make his way up to first and bring it home, he will join Cameron Dass, our current championship leader, as being the only driver in this field to have done the triple so far this season. But Cameron Dass, starting from pole position after claiming the fastest lap in the race 2 earlier on today, has had a bit of an up and down weekend so far. He's got the pace, but unfortunately was caught up in a couple of incidents in race 1, which saw him DNF in the end and not able to score any points, but he managed to have a brilliant comeback drive to second in race 2, which puts him on pole because he secured the fastest lap. So where better to start than on pole? The leading rookie currently on debut as well. He hasn't raced in any other races this year in Euroformula. Entering with Carlin, who returned to the championship. There he is on your screen, the number 31, Christian Mansell, with a superb drive so far this weekend, learning the track, learning this Euroformula Open car. Currently going to be starting from third on the grid, and so far has been able to mix it with some of the more experienced drivers in this field. As the heat blazes down on them, as they come round on this reconnaissance lap, and they'll form up on the grid. And we'll get away with Cameron Dass leading them. Our pole sitter for race 2 was Enzo Trulli, the 16-year-old son of Jarno, but forging a career in his own right. Started on pole position, but unfortunately fell all the way down through the pack during race 2. Couldn't quite match the leading pace, so he fell back through the pack all the way down to 8th in the end. Third rookie, however, just behind Casper Stevenson, who finished 5th overall, second of the rookies. Casper Stevenson enjoying a strong weekend so far, very consistent. Josh Mason came home 6th after starting from the back of the pack after quite a huge incident, really, in race 1, which saw him nearly flip the entire car. Thankfully, it went up on its 2 rear wheels and slamming back down onto the ground, but unfortunately, that put him out of the race straight away, forced to start from the back and clawed his way up through to 6th in the end. He'll go from 5th this afternoon. All to do from there, just ahead of Philippe Caminiars, who's been showing some greatly improved pace this weekend, beginning to get to grips with this car, learning it more and more, and the track as well. But unfortunately, after a brilliant start in race 2, he fell down the pack, and he joined Enzo Trulli just ahead of him in 7th in the end. The Polish 19-year-old, currently done a bit of 2018 Spanish F4, and then actually followed Enzo Trulli to, oh no, just before, sorry. He was a year before Enzo Trulli in the 2019 Formula 4 UAE Championship. Going for Crypto Tower Racing today, his teammates Louis Foster and Nazim Azman. Azman going from 4th, the Malaysian driver, who's had 2 podiums so far this weekend. So a nice, strong and consistent couple of races so far. He'll be hoping to do the triple when it comes to podiums. Seems to be lacking a little bit of that front-running pace up there with Louis Foster and Cameron Dass, but very much one to keep an eye on. And Dass so far, with one of his main rivals, Jack Crawford, absent this weekend, trying to gain as much ground, and where better to do it than starting from pole position on the left side of the grid. But Louis Foster will be right there with him, his nearest championship rival right now. After 2 back-to-back wins, he's feeling bullish. He thinks he could do the triple, just ahead of Christian Mansell. Actually, he doesn't really have a lot to lose. Making his debut here, Carlin put him in the car this weekend and rejoining Euroformula because they love the championship. They think it's a great place for these drivers to gain experience, so he's just getting up to grips, and so far, so good for the young Australian ahead of Nazim Azman. Josh Mason for RR Racing, going from 5th spot. Some good overtakes in race 2 and battling his way through from last, hoping to gain a few more spots in race 3 this afternoon, ahead of Philippe Caminiars for Crypto Tower Racing. Sip of water, or whatever may be in that drinks bottle. He goes just in front of the Brit Casper Stevenson, who's had a good run so far. 1 podium in race 1, came 3rd overall, so feeling good in the car. Leading rookie currently, leading Enzo Trulli, who goes from 8th for Drive X. Fist bump, and away they go. Left alone in the car with nothing but them at the steering wheel. Vivian Kasei going from 9th place. She was getting involved in some good battles as well with Trulli. Chovanec involved there too. For RR Racing, Zdeněk Chovanec, the Venezuelan-born Czech, in that striking sort of turquoise livery. I'm going to call it turquoise. Just in front of Enzo Scionti, who was right in there with that battle as well. I think the bottom 4 cars were in a very tight battle, including this man, Matthias Luton, who replaces Jack Crawford for the weekend. Very tight battle at the back of the pack. And this is how it all unfolded in race 2 in Euroformula here in Spa-Francorchamps. Louis Foster got away well. Josh Mason having to cover off Cameron Dass and Philippe Caminiars coming through there, and that was looked like shooting forced out wide. And this was the huge incident. This was actually highlights of race 1. That was Josh Mason there, getting it a little bit worried for his car there, but he had to DNF, and that meant Louis Foster was kind of untroubled. With incident-strewn racing, he was able to bring it home to the finish, just ahead of Nazim Azman and Casper Stevenson. And this was how race 2, Enzo Trulli on the left-hand side, his teammate Enzo Scionti right at the back of the pack with a very sluggish start. Philippe Caminiars there getting right up to the front of the field there, started from 3rd, but then took the lead. Matthias Luton going out wide there, took the lead going down and up through Eau Rouge. But it was Louis Foster ultimately who managed to use the toe and the slipstream to get past all of them. Meanwhile, the further battles in the back of the pack took place, as Louis Foster was able to drive away from Cameron Dass and take his 2nd win of the weekend. And we shall see if we will get as spicy action as we did yesterday. Up in the comment box, by the way, my name is Harry Benjamin. An absolute pleasure to have your company so far this weekend. If you're joining us for the first time or if you've been watching all weekend long, thank you for your company. And as a reward, here's the grid officially. Cameron Dass starts from pole position. Louis Foster right next to him in second. Then it's Christian Mansell making his debut with Carlin this weekend. Third, Nazim Azman fourth. Josh Mason goes from fifth on row 3 ahead of Philippe Caminiars for Crypto Tower Racing, just in front of Casper Stevenson and Enzo Trulli. It's an all-rookie row 4. Just behind them as well, row 5 sees Vivian Kasei, the Hungarian racing driver, going from 9th ahead of Zdeněk Chovanec in 10th. Enzo Schionti will be hoping he gets a better start than he did in race 2, going from 11th. And Matthias Luton subbing for Jack Crawford this weekend, so he's been dropped in it at a fairly deep end, going from 12th, but got himself involved in some excellent battles in this morning's race, hoping to get involved yet again. He was taken out prematurely by Chovanec in race 1, which we saw highlights of briefly. Chovanec trying down the inside, going into Lecombe, and unfortunately at that time 2 into 1 didn't go, and both of them ended up in the wall. Chovanec and Luton then went toe-to-toe again in the exact same corner, but this time managed to keep all 8 wheels of both their 2 cars on the black stuff, and both made it through there. Joining me in the commentary box, as ever, Elliot Wood, to provide some expert analysis. And Elliot, we've had some spicy racing action. I'm hoping we're going to get it again, but it looks like Louis Foster is certainly the man to watch. But we haven't seen Dass and what he can do starting at the front if he keeps it clean, because he's been involved in a few incidents, which of course then in race 1, which of course then saw him having to fight his way through into race 2. Now he's starting from the front.
Yeah, and Cameron Dass is actually the first Euroformula driver in quite a long time who has been able to win races from further back in the order, because we've particularly seen a lot of dominant wins in the history of this series. But this weekend, for considering how much he's spoken about how, you know, the tyre degradation and the heat and all these factors that could go against him, Louis Foster has been the driver with the pace in qualifying, with the pace in the races, and really just with the cleanest driving in the races as well. Loads of on-track battling, and he's probably the only one who hasn't been involved in any kind of skirmishes or anything like that. So kept it clean. He's collecting a lot of points, and you know, this is a circuit. He said he didn't feel like he's already a special, like this is his best circuit yet. But in the 5 races he's done here, he's won 3 of them. So he clearly knows his way around this track. He
does. Louis Foster, the 17-year-old from Great Britain, done a bit of MRF racing in 2019 with a win and 2 podiums to his name. Made his debut in Euroformula Open in 2020, finishing 12th overall with 1 win and 3 podiums to his name with the RR Racing team, and then made the switch this year to Crypto Tower Racing, and that seems to be working out very well for him at the moment, sharing that team with Nazim Azman and Philippe Caminiars, and they're of course supported technically by the team Motorpark engineers who run Dass, Luton this weekend, Kasei as well. As we come round to the final sector of this lap and get ready as the cars will slot into their grid stops through the bus stop chicane. A brilliant overtaking zone there. Turns 18 and 19, which leads you out onto the start-finish straight, where Cameron Dass has already pulled into his starting grid. Edges a little bit more forward because he's got a little bit of a gap there, so he can go right onto the yellow line. Louis Foster already in there, as we see. Matthias Luton line up in 12th position. And that looks like a rather slow, actually, Enzo Schionti getting into his grid slot, which he finally does so. And the green flag will fly at the back, signalling we are ready to go racing. It is all eyes to the lights and foot to the floor as we go racing, and that is a poor start. He stalled it. Louis Foster can't get going. Yellow flags, they all make it around. Enzo Schionti has got a slow start as well in the background, so that has meant Cameron Dass goes into turn 1 in the lead. Ahead of him is nobody, because behind him is everybody else. Mansell in 2nd so far. Looks like Azman has managed to hold on to 3rd. Josh Mason already up to 4th, just in front of Philippe Caminiars, and I think Casper Stevenson there right up behind him. So Louis Foster was able to get going eventually. Just looking on the grid now, he has got going. So your winner from race 1 and 2 so far, unable to get going, but is now trying to catch the pack at the back. So that has allowed Cameron Dass a free pass nearly. And look, Cameron Dass having to defend there from Mansell and Asman as they use the toe and those extra kilometres an hour they can gain from it on the start-finish straight. All make it through nice and cleanly. So it is Dass, Mansell, Asman, Mason, Stevenson, Cominiars, Chauvenet, Trulli, Kasei and Luton, your top 10, with Foster and Scionti both having very slow starts, and that is disastrous for Louis Foster.
Yeah, I think most of the drivers avoided them, or it did look like one just clipped his left rear tyre while he was still stationary on the grid, which don't think it caused any damage, but drifting off at the back. He's actually caught up then, it seems, past Scionti, but quite a scary start there for him. And the pace he's shown so far, he can recover from this. It's not impossible, especially we have a safety car. Although I may be wrong about that. Potentially there is, slightly.
That was Chauvenet, I think, wasn't it?
Was it? It could have been.
Potentially.
It's all action so far.
All action so far in Euroformula Open. Stick with it, because you never know when something dramatic is going to happen. But it will certainly be a fight back to the front for Louis Foster, who was plumb last, is now up to 10th, and he's still with the main pack. He's got Vivian Kasei to pass now, up in front of him, as we watch Josh Mason being hunted down by Casper Stevenson. Then it looks like Philippe Cominiars, and there's Chauvenet trying to hold the number 34 car of Enzo Trulli. As we come into the bus stop chicane, Enzo Trulli holding on just in front of Chauvenet, and actually gets Chauvenet. So he goes up to 7th there, so a little swap for position. It's Trulli ahead of Chauvenet now. Foster has managed to get Kasei, so he's right up behind Chauvenet now, trying to hunt down 8th position. Because what he's not going to want to do is let Dass start to pull away and create a gap, because then it's going to be near impossible to even challenge for the win here, which he's still capable of doing. Mansell about 7/10 of a second back from Dass as it currently stands, then Asman a further 1.5 seconds back. So the top three fairly evenly spaced out. Then Josh Mason currently in 4th, Casper Stevenson 5th, Cominiar 6th, Trulli 7th, Enzo Trulli 8th, and there is a big long train of cars. That looks like the entire field actually. So despite Foster not moving at all on the grid, he's still well and truly in it, and he gets Chauvenet nice and easily into Lecum at the end of the Kemmel Straight. And through turns 5 and 6 he goes into 7, and then down into 8 as we see a tasty battle starting to develop between Josh Mason and Casper Stevenson. Mason in the number 21 car in front of the number 25 Stevenson. Stevenson, a rookie, the leading rookie so far this year, putting on a great result, but Mansell actually is starting to take that away from him with his debut so far. Dass with the fastest lap as well. Mansell, leading rookie, 2nd overall. Asman 3rd. Louis Foster now right onto the back of Enzo Trulli. Has a little look down the inside. Not going to happen there. Coming into the final sector of this lap through Stavolo. The gap's fairly even at the moment. Dass, Mansell and Asman, but let's see how it all starts. So look at the right of your picture, 7th place man Louis Foster got going and then bogged down completely, and they all just about managed to avoid him. No clipping there by the looks of it, and that allowed Dass to have a relatively smooth run to turn 1 in La Source, and you can see there, it could have been disastrous there, but they all managed to see him slow, and then he did get going eventually, so didn't lose too much time. And you'll see as well, Enzo Scionti on the right-hand side had a similar issue, and he had the same issue yesterday as well, but he got going just before Foster, but both finding themselves at the back of the pack. A much bigger drop though for Foster. On board with, I think, Casper Stevenson, with a nice view of Josh Mason going into turn 1.
And Foster was just at the fastest lap of anyone in 7th place, 2 minute 12.5. So, he's going faster than Cameron Dass right now. Here's a replay of Chauvenet and Trulli. Trulli taking 7th place at the end of lap 1. So Foster is now already ahead of Trulli as well. Where is he in the picture? He is at the back of this train, so he's got a bit of a gap. He needs to make up to 6th place. And Josh Mason's going alongside Casper Stevenson. Stevenson passed into 4th place.
The rookie in the field, Casper Stevenson for VAR. Van Amersfoort Racing already had a podium to his name this weekend. Swoops past Stevenson, who will want to swoops past Mason. Apologies, we want to stick with him as much as possible as Louis Foster sets the fastest lap time, taking it away from Cameron Dass. Foster now 1.5 seconds behind 6th place man Caminiars. Das, meanwhile, up in the front, has a 8, nearly 9/10 of a second gap. So he's eking it out to a second, and then Asman is closing in on Mansell, less than half a second between them. And this was how Casper Stevenson got past Josh Mason. A simple use of slipstream and toe through the high-speed part of the track on the Kemmel Straight. Inside line, late on the brakes into Lecombe, into turn 5 and 6, one of those technical parts of this track. And through Stevenson goes into 4th. Louis Foster on the comeback charge, started on 2nd, was hoping he could do the triple, but leaving himself all to do. But he is absolutely carving his way through the pack so far.
And Nazem Asman's about to go down the inside of Christian Mansell. Mansell kind of left the door open there going into the final chicane, so that is for 2nd place. Once again, Nazem Asman could get 3 podiums in a row this weekend. Cameron Das crosses the line 1.98 seconds up, so he's extended his lead by over a second there. Asman in 2nd, Mansell 3rd, Stevenson 4th, Foster at the back of this train in 7th place, and there is a lock-up from Caminiar, so I expect Foster will be lining up a move down the Kemmel Straight now.
And Caminiars as well, just behind Mason, so there's a little quartet of cars actually, with Stevenson just a little bit further ahead, but it's mainly a battle here for this 5th place position, currently occupied by Josh Mason, but he's going to have a lot of defending to do from Philippe Caminiars, who gets all up in his rear diffuser using the speed and momentum through Eau Rouge. Louis Foster's going to want to have a little go at this, but he might just sit back and let them sort it out. Doesn't want to get into any trouble. Caminiars through on Mason into Lecombe. And that's going to allow Foster to close right up to the back of Mason as well in this battle for 5th place. Caminiars now on the charge to Stevenson, and that's a big lock-up from Josh Mason, which is going to allow Louis Foster to get his front wing down the inside line as we go through now the corner with no name. Josh Mason with a little look to his right to try and scare off Foster. Doesn't quite work. Foster able to swoop round the outside. Foster through on Mason for 6th place. Foster continuing his charge up the field. Now Caminiars. And here's a look here at Nazem Asman getting through on Mansell for 2nd place. Nice simple move, inside line, late on the brakes, in the bus stop chicane. Nicely done there from Asman. And Mansell realising that actually it's not worth putting up too much of a fight for that one. And here was the battle we just saw. Foster able to swoop round the outside and then down into Pouhon ahead of Josh Mason. Meanwhile, at the back, we've got another tasty battle developing. That looks like Enzo Schionti is at the front of this field, just in front of Chovanec, Kasei and Luton. This is all a battle over 9th.
I'm wondering how Schionti kind of moved forwards and backwards there, because he was behind this trio on lap 2 and now on lap 4. So there's a lot of jostling going on, and going to Blanchimont, getting very close to the rear of Chovanec there was Vivian Castelli, and they're doing it again. They're about to go 3 wide, 2 wide again, going into the final chicane. Very brave. Chovanec's going to try and go around the outside of Sconti. Doesn't get it done, slots back in, and now he's under pressure again from Castelli.
Good run from Castelli this weekend so far, mixing it with some good overtaking manoeuvres so far, but this is all a battle for 9th place. Enzo Schionti, I think you're right, the power here of the slipstream can really fast forward you about 4 spots in 1 lap if you're lucky, if you time it right. And I think that's what's happened for Schionti, because remember, he barely got off the grid. So lucky for Schionti to be able to get off the grid first of all, and then make use of that powerful slipstream here, as that looks like Mansell now coming under pressure for 3rd. Fellow rookie Casper Stevenson, who's had a really solid run this weekend, very consistent. As we go 3 wide, can Luton make it for Kasei? Gets a front left wheel onto the grass. They all seemingly make it through. Chovanec able to make up the most ground there. Chovanec gets Truly now, and I know gets Schionti, who was at the front of this pack, has now shifted back down a couple of spots. So Chovanec, the big winner there, through to 9th place. Schionti losing out on 2 positions there to Chovanec and Kasei. Meanwhile, Matthias Luton subbing for Jack Crawford this weekend, just watching on. A couple of tenths back in 12th. And this all the battle for 9th place. Louis Foster, 4 tenths back from Philippe Caminiars. So he will be trying to make a move any second now. Currently with the fastest lap. He'll need to get a bit of a hurry on, though, if he wants to try and make the podium, because what we've seen in Euroformula is that gaps do start to appear, especially midway through the race when tyre conservation comes into it, which is something Foster has been worried about all weekend, saying it can be very severe here. So it's just something you have to think about and manage your pace throughout the race. Of course, it's a lot easier to manage your pace when you're Cameron Dass and you're the leader, currently leading after 4 laps with 2.8 seconds to gap to Asman, who is almost pulled a gap of a second to Mansell. And then we get this battle which is heating up between, well, the main pack behind Dass, really, because Asman just about getting away, and then comes Mansell, Stevenson, Caminiars, Foster, all over the back of Caminiars. He'll be wanting to get this move done by the end of the Kemmel Straight, I imagine. Can he get close enough? Unfortunately, he may well benefit from the slipstream, but Caminiars is going to get the exact same thing from Stevenson in front, who's also going to be getting the same benefit from Mansell in front, who's actually still within range of Asman. So Asman could well come a cropper here. Dass just about out of that zone where you can really build on getting that toe. Let's see how it affects people here. They all line astern through to Lekum, into 5 and 6, then through 7.
What potentially has happened here as well is some of the teams and drivers are using older tyres than previous races. Are going to go 4 wide, or at least 2 sets of 2, but it might go 3 wide again. And I think Enzo Scionti wants to make it 4 wide. So who's going to come out on top of this? 3 wide into Lekum, and we've cut away. I imagine Chovanec made it through in first place out of that group there. Foster at the back of the train running ahead, and he's just warming up his tyres now.
Oh, yes.
Scionti, and that's Trulli in the background, so hopefully we're going to see them. We're not going to. We're waiting to see the result of.
I thought Kasei might come out on top there, but it looks like Chovanec might well have been able to hold on. Scionti, though, really going up and down. He was at the lead of that pack, now he's last at the back of that pack in 12th, so he's really having a good old battle there. Louis Foster really trying it on the inside of Philippe Caminiard earlier on this lap, and then seemingly perhaps struggling with a bit of a tyre warm-up, having to weave during the race, which is not something you see normally. So perhaps he's just not quite in the right operating window. It's because he's not used to running in the mid-pack. And here was that battle then. They went 3 wide, so Kasei on the left, Chovanec in the middle, Luton on the far right, and Scionti trying to find a way through. And it looks like Chovanec was able to hold his nerve and just stay ahead of Kasei, who gets in front of Luton, and Scionti having to just follow through behind them all. So Scionti was 9th, now shuffled back to 12th place. Meanwhile, Foster, who is only a few tenths ahead of him. So I think Foster could still get a podium here. There was the move on the outside, coming into the bus stop chicane, through Blanchimont, carrying way more speed than Caminiars, and gets the move done into the braking zone. Nicely done from Louis Foster there. But I think Foster could well get 2nd place here if all goes his way. At the moment, he's in the same picture as our leaders, so anything is possible in Euroformula Open. Currently, as it stands, Dass, Asman and Mansell are your top 3. Stevenson 4th, Foster now 5th with the fastest lap time. Louis Foster, if you're just joining us, started 2nd place. He's won race 1 and race 2 so far this weekend, nearly stalled on the grid, but is able to fight back on his charge. Meanwhile, further back in the pack, Kasei now with a nice move round the outside through Lekum, taking Chovanec for 9th. Very nicely done there for the Hungarian racing driver Vivian Kasei. Through on Chovanec for 9th. Chovanec having to just slot back in behind her. And they seem to have actually made a little bit of a gap now to Luton and Scionti. And Chovanec running a little bit wide there through the corner with no name, trying desperately to get back onto terms with Kasei, who's looking in her mirrors as we go into the double left-hander of Pouon and entering the final sector of this lap. This is all the battle for 9th place, and just ahead of them is Trulli Mason. There's Trulli and Mason, a little bit in no man's land really, but they are well ahead of the battle for the back of the pack and the last paying points positions. Asman coming through for 2nd.
Foster's going to line up a move going into the final chicane. Dives down the inside, gets it done very cleanly. And although the rear end gets a little bit looser, that's going to lose the momentum that would have allowed him to then attack the next car up. So Christian Mansell's got a little back gap. Louis Foster, Casper Stevenson, is that another fastest lap for Louis Foster? Not quite so. And also warning flag car 66 track limits. That's Chovanec, which we kind of saw further back in the order.
Yeah, Chovanec being warned there, but Foster through on Stevenson fairly well there. So that moves Foster up to 4th. He takes the fastest lap with it. Next on his list now will be Christian Mansell, who is just half a second behind. This is how Foster did it, coming out of Blanchimont once again. This is where he's making the moves this time, down the inside, into the bus stop chicane, and gets it done nicely. Stevenson, not a lot more he could have done about that. Mansell just in front of him though, and I think he won't be able to do a lot about Foster, as we'll see through our pictures now, and he won't be able to do a lot about it because Foster's already through on Mansell. So Foster now up to 3rd and back on the podium, just 1 place down from where he started this race. Now Foster sets his sights on Nazim Azman, and then he could well still, if he's got raw pace, catch our race leader, Cameron Dass, as Matthias Luton. Is that on the entry to Lake Coombe, potentially? Yes, it is. Just coming out from the Kemmel Straight through turns 5 and 6, has spun. I wonder if he's had contact with someone, because I saw Chovanec as well swap positions with him, or if he's lost it on his own. But Luton now down at the pack, so here it is, this battle ever raging on. Cassay able to get in front now, and these two, have they come together again? Oh, I'm not sure if they actually touched, or did Luton just lose the rear as they both turned in? We need the view from the other side, really, to see that, and if there was a touch of wheels there. But those two, they've got a lot of history together in that exact corner. Crashed there in race 1, a great move together in race 2, and race 3, well, still up for debate. But Luton, unfortunately, has put him down to last now. Scionti in 11th, Chovanec 10th, Cassay now leading that battle for 9th. And then it's Trulli, who is about 2.8 seconds back from Mason, who is in 7th, who is 3 seconds back from Caminiars. Louis Foster sets the fastest lap in 3rd, closing in on Nazim Azman. He is just over a second away now from being right on the rear of his Crypto Tower Racing teammate Nazim Azman, who is a further 3.2 seconds back from Cameron Dass. So Dass able to manage this pace, but I wonder if he'll be wondering where Foster is, and if he suddenly sees him in his rear mirrors, will he start to pick up the pace, or is that all that Dass has got to offer for us?
I think after race 2, Foster did say we haven't quite seen the full potential of Cameron Dass this weekend because of the issues he's had in the first 2 races. So maybe we're seeing that now, but we're also seeing Foster at his very best after his stall, which, you can preload the clutches on these cars, so maybe it got a little too hot, held it for too long, and that's what caused him to stall at the start of this race. And I think when I thought I saw someone hit his tyre, it was probably him just jolting forward very slightly as someone went past him incredibly closely, coming towards endless lap. Christian Mansell doing a very good job in 4th again. He came 4th in race 2. This is only his 3rd race in this car, so he's only been driving this car essentially for 3 days. Very good job.
Really good job. I think Christian Mansell has impressed a lot of people so far this weekend. Dan Tickton watching over him as well, the Formula 2 racer, race winner, podium finisher, and the Williams F1 development driver, coaching him with the Carlin team this weekend, so he's in good hands. And so far, that coaching clearly paying off. Mansell, 4th currently, but first rookie once again ahead of Stevenson from Caminiars in 6th and Mason 7th. Now, how close is Louis Foster this time around? Is he under a second? Yes, he is under a second. As we go on to the next lap, he's just under 9/10 of a second now, closing on 8/10 of a second. Casper Stevenson, meanwhile, a similar gap between him and Mansell, so a nice rookie battle developing there as we head towards the final part of race 3 here in Spa-Francorchamps for Euroformula Open. Dass leading now with a 3-second gap after 9 laps.
Yes, and Nazim Azman actually closed that up by 2 or 3 tenths on the previous lap. Top 2 closing in now. Actually, we can see at the very front of the picture, Louis Foster was potentially drawing alongside. He's tucked back in behind Nazem Asman, but he is far closer at the end of the Kemmel Straight than he was at the beginning of it. Both of them have lost a tiny bit of time to Cameron Dass. Be interested to see how good Foster does without this slipstream.
Because he gained about 5/10 of a second from Asman there.
Half a second according to the first sector split, so that's a considerable amount.
Yeah, and that could be the power of a toe, to be honest. Plus, mixed with Foster's overall pace this weekend. But we will see, really, if he comes a cropper, because he'll have to close if he gets Asman, and it looks like he may well do that. But Asman able to stretch it out a little bit going through the tight and twisty middle sector. But if Foster does get through, it'll be interesting to see how quickly, if he can close that gap. And here we go again with another battle. It's Chovanec and Kasey. Chovanec weaving all over the road. Decides he wants the inside line going down into Lecum and gets Kasey, and that is the battle for 9th there. Rages on. Kasey and Chovanec have kind of left Scionti and Luton to their own devices. And then in sort of the middle of the pack, really, it's Casper Stevenson in 5th, and then a couple of seconds back is Cominiars, and then a few seconds back from him, Josh Mason, as Foster has a little look into the bus stop chicane, not quite close enough on that occasion. And behind Mason, I should say, is truly in 8th, who's a further few seconds behind him. So the gaps in the middle of the pack quite
And Christian Mansell is under pressure, and Casper Stevenson coming onto the pit straight. Very close. I think Stevenson could potentially look for a move and turn on. We've got a great onboard with Casper this weekend, is he? The door was left open for him there, but he didn't make use of it.
I think we're going to get 2 battles at the exact same time, because Foster has closed right up to Asman once again as we go up to Eau Rouge on board with Casper Stevenson for the Van Amersfoort Racing Team. Rookie versus rookie, although arguably Mansell is a bit more of a rookie, because this is his first race in Euroformula Open, his first weekend. This is his 3rd ever race, I should say, so far. Doing an outstanding job in the Carlin car. As we go side by side, that is Foster in the foreground of our screen going round the outside of Nazem Asman. That is for 2nd place on the road, and then further back I think we went 3 wide, and it looks like Casper Stevenson has just about held on. Philip Cominiars snuck up behind them both and managed to get Mansell as well. So Mansell has fallen down 2 positions there. Stevenson up to 4th, Cominiars 5th, Mansell down to 6th, although Cominiars getting it all wrong there as we go now into the corner with No Nay going a little bit wide. It's going to allow Mansell to close up, and then just ahead of this battle, Louis Foster able to get back to where he started this race in 2nd. 4 laps to go here in Spa-Francorchamps, and 3.1 seconds behind the leader, Cameron Dass, his main championship rival.
And Zednet Chovanec is currently holding on to 9th place. And emphasis on holding on, because Kasey is going to go down the inside. Brassel's actually kept the nose in this time, which means all the way around the corner is going to be side by side. But Chovanec got the traction. He's out of the corner ahead. Further up the road, Cominiars surprised everyone by timing it. And it's all gone wrong. Chovanec, yeah, he looks fine, so that's good. And that looks like a broken front wing and potentially a puncher. Kasey, who's still holding position ahead of the DriveX car behind her, all the way through Pouhon. We need to see a replay of all this action, because it's all happening at once.
That was either going to end in tears or be very, very tasty all the way through. And unfortunately, it has ended in tears for Chovanec and Kasey potentially, although she is still running. But that rear wing is getting more and more tilted, and that's going to be affecting the air of that car. She's struggling to turn it in there into the right-hand corners, and Scionti's through on her now. So we'll see what Kasey does, whether she comes into the pit lane at the end of this lap.
And we've got a safety car.
We have. I'm not surprised, actually, because Chovanec is rammed into the wall there. Chovanec lost it all on his own. But how did Kasey pick up damage? Interesting. So they didn't even touch Chovanec, with a great battle with Kasey, and unfortunately carried too much speed there going into turns 10 and 11. Lost the rear, and the only place where that car was ending up was in the tyre barriers, and we now have a safety car which actually could save Cameron Dass, or not, because it's going to allow Louis Foster to completely wipe out Cameron Dass's what was a over 3-second lead, and depending on how quick they can remove Chovanec's car, that could either mean we get a 1-lap dash in which Foster is right up behind us, or we could well end this race under safety car potentially.
Yeah, I'm going to see the corner
It's still there.
But we did see Louis Foster early in the race actually weaving to warm up his tyres. So potentially, you know, calling them down now with the safety car isn't going to be as beneficial for him. I wonder if they change the tyres there today as well, because she can catch up to the back of the queue. Potentially going to be the fastest car on track. Now looking at Christian Mansell down in 6th place. So Caminiar's obviously got past at the same time as Casper Stevenson, which we haven't seen a replay of yet. Possibly the move of the race there, because it was on the grass going down the Camel Straight pretty much.
Well, with a safety car just a few laps to the finish after an incident for Zdeněk Chovanec, who was battling for 9th with Vivian Kasei, and unfortunately just went in too hot by the looks of it into turn 9, the corner with, into turn 10 I should say, I think the corner with no name, or turn 9 actually that is. And unfortunately ended up, here it is, you'll see it now. Kasei trying it down the inside, holding her nerve, as was Chovanec though. Wasn't going to give this up without a fight, keeps it locked in, and is this where there might have been
Front
a bit
wing,
of touch?
right rear wheel.
There.
Yeah, and probably a puncture.
So did that then give a puncture to Chovanec? Interesting. Well, let's have a look here. Yes.
Yeah. And then look how Chovanec jumps over the curbs as well. The
You might well, yes,
car.
you're right, a puncture. So he didn't go in too hot. So he got a puncture. Which, yeah, that looks like a very flat tyre to me. So unfortunately there, so Chovanec, having done a pretty sterling effort so far in that battle for 9th, tossing and turning with Vivian Kasei, Matthias Luton and Enzo Schionti. Unfortunately, that ever so slight touch between Kasei's front left and Chovanec's rear right has resulted in Kasei having to come to the pit lane to change her front wing, and probably change set tyres as well if she's got any left over, and has put Chovanec into the wall with a flat tyre and out of this race. So a real shame for both of them. That has allowed Schionti and Luton to jump up the order. Schionti now right up behind his teammate Enzo Trulli, who is at the back of this field. We're still waiting for Schionti to catch up the pack. And that is the reason though why the safety car is deployed. Chovanec and Kasei. Well then, I think it's been a fairly action-packed race with 2 laps left to go. We'll see how this pans out, whether we're able to remove Chovanec's car and get perhaps a 1.5 lap dash, or whether it may well end under safety car. There is the stricken car of Zdeněk Chovanec. A real shame to end his weekend that way. Das's 3-second lead completely wiped out by this safety car, allowing Louis Foster, who started 2nd on the grid, dropped to last, or all but last, after stalling, got going, and has been making his way up the order ever since. And now is right up behind the man who is just in front of him in the overall driver's standings. Cameron Das leading Louis Foster. Nazim Asman also up there in 3rd. If he gets this, it'll be a 3rd podium this weekend. So a very consistent weekend for the Malaysian driver. Casper Stevenson now the leading rookie up in 4th. Perhaps his experience over Mansell, the other rookie in this field, joining this weekend for the first time, proving fruitful there. Mansell was in front of Caminiar's and Stevenson for a lot of this race, and challenging actually for a podium position, but now has fallen back to 6th behind Caminiar's. Then comes Josh Mason, Enzo Trulli, and Enzo Schionti. Matthias Luton, the last of the runners before Vivian Kasei, who had to come into the pit lane with front wing damage. We'll see if she's caught up to the back of this pack yet. No, she hasn't. But a message from race control saying that the incident involving cars 66 and 77, so that is obviously Zdeněk Chovanec and Vivian Kasei, is under investigation. The safety car lights have gone off, so we will get a last couple of laps of racing here. What can Foster do? Can he challenge for the win? Can Das hold on to it? And that battle for the podium is still up for grabs as all 10 cars Bar Kasei, who has now actually caught up to the back of this pack, are all so tightly packed. The safety car will come in this lap and Das will lead them away. And I think he may well have already gone and has already managed to get a little bit of a gap there to Foster down into the bus stop chicane. They all file through one by one. Das, Foster, Asman, Stevenson, Caminiards, Mansell, Mason, Trulli, Schionti, Luton and Kasei. And we finally get some green flag racing, and it will be a last lap dash with 2 laps to go. That's a huge lock up there from Casper Stevenson. He gets it turned in, but that is not going to do his tyres any favours, and they'll be screaming for their life right now with just 2 laps to go. Cameron Das has managed to hold on to the lead from Louis Foster. Nazim Asman slotting into third. Casper Stevenson just about making it into the source ahead of Philippe Caminiards, with Christian Mansell also tucked in behind. Josh Mason coming under a little bit of pressure, I think, from Enzo Trulli. They're all going to try and get the toe off each other, though. And we'll see here Foster pulling out to the far right. Das has him covered. And we'll see, I think Mason went side to side with Trulli there as well. Trulli able to get in front of Mason for 7th. Mason now coming under pressure from Schionti. Then comes Luton and Kasei right at the back of the pack. But Das able to hold his lead. He's led every single lap of this race so far. He won't want to lose it in the last couple of laps here in Spa, in Belgium, at the legendary, historic circuit Spa-Francorchamps. Louis Foster actually able to split away a bit now from Nazim Asman, who just does not look like he has the front-running pace of Das and Foster. And we've got a car running out wide there, actually. I think that was Enzo Trulli perhaps going a little bit wide through Pouon. That's allowed Josh Mason to catch right up to the back of him. So you see them going through your pictures there. 2/10 the gap between Das and Foster.
Casper Stevenson running in, so the gap has opened up between the top 3 and 4th place. So this is a 3-car battle for the win, essentially, because they didn't approach Eau Rouge the first time round from the restart at full racing speed. So this next lap, the final lap of the race, is really going to be where the toe is going to be felt by these drivers. Louis Foster does look like he's getting a little closer. Is he going to be more adventurous on the brakes going to the final corner? We can't quite see, but he got a little bit of a slide on the entry. Casper Stevenson has a queue of cars. Josh Mason also locks up, but he lost his position to Enzo Trulli even earlier, so he's going to be trying to reclaim that on the final lap of the race.
Josh Mason trying to fight back on Trulli for 7th. Meanwhile, Kasei has gotten past Luton in the background there for 10th place. And that gap between Foster and Das, your top 2 currently sort of going from 0.2 to half a second to 0.7 of a second, depending where we are on the track. And this is arguably the most important part of the track, and where an overtake can be done. How much speed can Foster carry up through Eau Rouge, through Radion, and on to the Kemmel straight here, the highest speed part of the track. He pulls alongside Cameron Das, has a little wiggle there, wanting to cut back perhaps, but Das is there. They go wheel to wheel. It looks like Foster might just be able to get a nose ahead. Das will hold the inside line, but that becomes the outside line going through Lake Coombe, and he forces Das off that wide, who has to hold his nerve on the curbs and just about holds it there, coming under pressure from Asman now. But Foster through on the lead, having stalled on the opening lap, has fought back, and thanks, I think, in part to a bit of a safety car helping hand, has taken the lead from Cameron Das in the final lap here for race 3 in Spa for Euroformula Open. And that might just put Asman for a sniff of 2nd here, because I think running out wide onto the curbs has actually lost Asman quite a bit of time there. You'll see Foster just barging his way through, and that forced Asman off onto the curbs and losing the rear a little bit, having to correct it, and that allowed Asman to close in right up behind him. So, your pace leader, who has won race 1, race 2, and is on course to take the win and do the triple. He started 2nd, Louis Foster, the 17-year-old from Great Britain. For Crypto Tower Racing, comes through Blanchimont. He stalled at the start, fell to the back, and had to fight his way through. 3 seconds was the gap to Das. That was blown out of the window when a safety car period came out. That allowed him to close up, and in the final lap, Louis Foster has done the triple and takes the win here in Spa for race 3 in Euroformula Open, and you can see how much that means to him, waving his fists in the cockpit. He worked hard for that one. He comes home to take the win just ahead of Cameron Dass, who will have to make do with second. I think he'll be gutted having led so much of this race, but still crucial points in the championship for Cameron Dass. Nazim Azman gets another podium this weekend, so he continues his consistent form. Comes home in third, just in front of Philippe Cominiars, who managed to get Casper Stevenson in those final couple of laps, up into fourth. Ahead of Stevenson, who was just ahead of Mansell. The two rookies there fighting it out for honours. And then Enzo Trulli just behind them, so the three rookies there, all in a row, 5th, 6th and 7th, just ahead of Josh Mason in 8th. Enzo Schionti came home 9th, just ahead of Vivian Cousset. And Matthias Luton rounded out the field. Zenit Chovanec crashed out in the penultimate few laps of this race, and that's what it does to the leaderboard. Now 19 points the gap between Dass and Foster. Azman maintains third. And look at Christian Mansell. After 3 races, he's in the top 10 already. 30 points to his name for the Carlin driver. 176 though to Cameron Dass, and 157 to Louis Foster, both of whom have done the triple in Euroformula in 2021. Dass did it in Portimao, Portugal for round 1, finishing first in every single race. Foster hasn't even been able to get a win up until this weekend, and he did so in fine form in race 1. Did the double this morning for race 2, and then had his eyes set on race 3. And it looks like they are not happy about that at all. So Dass not happy with Foster one bit for that overtaking manoeuvre. But Foster, you can see how much this means to him. He's done the triple. I think Dass will probably feel a bit aggrieved that he was forced very wide coming through Les Combes. Perhaps Foster being a little bit aggressive there, but it looked like fair racing to me.
Have a look on the outboard, it looked hard, but I mean, you can go and complain, but I don't think they will do anything like that. But it looked on the outboard hard.
Well, Dass's team there saying that he can go and complain, but I don't think anything's going to come of it. But there is your winning racing driver in third, Nazim Azman. Just quietly going about his business this weekend. Consistency key in any championship, and he's done it here, finishing third. Cameron Dass, as you can see, feeling very aggrieved there. He thought the win was his, and unfortunately that safety car was his undoing, because he lost it to an absolutely heroic drive from Louis Foster, coming from all the way at the back of the pack.
Louis Foster, 3 out of 3. Hat-trick at Spa. You must be elated, and that was a difficult one, of course, given what happened at the start. What happened?
Well, I think I got a bit nervous and slipped the clutch too far and just stalled it. I was gutted with myself when I did that. Tried to get it re-going, couldn't get it going, and then I knew that, you know, we could salvage points in the race. Here at Spa, it's a long race. You can overtake quite easy, and we had a good pace advantage over the rest of the field. So I just pushed as hard as I could and see what could happen. I mean, I got stuck behind Philippe for a few laps. Once I cleared him, I managed to clear Stevenson and then the other two in front. And then when the safety car came out, and I was like, this is perfect. So first safety car lap, I knew I shouldn't overtake because Cam was just getting back the next lap. So I waited, cooled my tyres down, and then second lap, last lap, I just pushed really, really hard, and then managed to get past him. So yeah, I mean, it went from hero to zero and then back to hero again. But yeah, I'm really, really happy. The team's done an amazing job this weekend. The car that race is amazing. I was pushing throughout the race as hard as I could. There was only a very small amount of drop off on the tyres, so yeah, couldn't do without them.
You can be happy. Hero of Spa, podium now, you know the way, I think. Well done.
Thank you.
Well, it was drama right from the very start here for race 3. Louis Foster in second place could not make it off the start in one piece. He did eventually get going, and that gave Cameron Dass, our pole sitter, a bit of a free pass going into the source, into turn one, holding the lead from Christian Mansell. Nazim Asman closing in on them as well as they made their way up through Eau Rouge. Enzo Schionti in the second of the Drivex cars also falling foul of clutch issues. On board with Casper Stevenson, a good run once again from the rookie driver, making his way and making use of the toe. Mansell, the rookie, making his debut this weekend, couldn't quite keep Nazim Asman at bay, who proved once again his consistent driving skills. And we're used to this battle, a battle for ninth between Chauvenet, Kasei, Schionti and Luton, raged on for many a lap. Ultimately, it was Schionti who won that out. Meanwhile, Louis Foster continued his charge up through the field, overtaking driver after driver. That was the move for second place, back to where he started on Nazim Asman. And here was what brought out the safety car in the battle for ninth. Chauvenet and Kasei coming together, and that put Chauvenet out of the race. Then that wiped out Dass's 3-second lead to Foster, and ultimately it was Louis Foster with perhaps a slightly aggressive move, but all's fair in love and war for Louis Foster, getting past Cameron Dass in the final lap to take the triple here in Spa. And the win for race 3 goes to Louis Foster, ahead of Cameron Dass and Nazim Asman, who once again gets on the podium this weekend, and you can tell that meant a lot to him.
You want to train tonight?
Yeah, I almost shot the deal to start.
Who?
You stalled it?
Oh mate, I stalled it and I went to restart it.
Is that what happened?
Yeah, I stalled. And then I tried to get it going again.
And here we go once again. So Louis Foster here started from second, all eyes on the prize, and just couldn't get going, saying he perhaps got a bit nervous and suffered with the clutch. He did eventually get going and didn't let the pack get too far away, and I think just a map got ahead of Enzo Schionti, who also managed that. This was him getting past Comediars early on, through into the bus stop chicane, then round the outside of Nazim Asman. He was in a good flow here. Louis Foster, no spar, very well, and thanks to a safety car period and a bit of slipstream, was able to overcome the 3-second gap that Dass had eked out over the rest of the field, and Foster able to work his way from last to first. And there he is now, standing at the top step of the podium with Dass in second, Asman third, and the winning rookie, Casper Stevenson. The British national anthem playing once again for Louis Foster, who makes it 3 from 3. Before this weekend, he didn't have a win on the board this season. Now he's got 3 and becomes only the second driver to do the triple in one race weekend, alongside second place man Cameron Dass, who I think will look at those pictures and decide it was a fairly decent move from Louis Foster. But that is it for Euroformula action this weekend. Thank you for joining us. Do make sure you come back for round 4 at the Hungaroring on the 9th to the 11th of July. We'll see you then.
Okay guys, congrats to Louis Foster.